As it turned out, the second day of our LV Game of the Week was not the one when Yorkshire lifted the trophy they won on day one at Lord's. The morning started with the new champions showing that whatever they got up to on the previous night in celebration did not affect them, at least not Jack Brooks and Ryan Sidebottom, a man who had more reason to have a drink or two after also bagging the 700th first-class wicket of his career on day one. These two had helped their team to a score of 238 for 9 on the first evening after coming together with a score on 221, which had been made in reply to Middlesex's 106 all-out. Brooks in particular surprised those at Lord's with his stroke play as he neared his maiden half-century for Yorkshire and just the third of his first-class career. The 31-year-old, who's had another exceptional summer with the ball in Championship cricket, was raising his bat after facing 69 balls, from which he'd found the boundary on 10 occasions. Brooks looked like a man unsure what to do when getting to a half-century. He had by now added 78 runs for the last wicket with Sidebottom, who'd made 28 of those when he was out in the same Tim Murtagh over, the bowler showing some good athleticism to complete the dismissal all by himself. Yorkshire wouldn't have cared one jot about missing out on one batting bonus point, as they were all out for 299, which gave them a handsome first innings lead of 193. Rarely has a team had such a bad start to a match as Middlesex had done on the first day at the home of cricket. They lost 3 wickets in the very first over of the game without scoring a run, and so anything was going to be an improvement on that. Still, the pressure would have been on Sam Robson and Paul Stirling to try to make a game of this. Yorkshire, of course, desperate to get the match completed so they could lift that trophy and get on with some real celebrations. It must have been very tough for the home team who, in a flash on day one, had become a bit part in this contest, but these two openers showed plenty of fight and character this time around. They put on 50 runs before lunch and added 37 more to that after the break, just making it that much more difficult for the champions to get the job done with 2 days of this match to spare. 2 days they would most certainly have enjoyed enormously. James Middlebrook was brought on to deliver the 21st over, and his fourth ball was beautifully pushed through the covers by Robson to complete a pleasing half-century which had been made of 68 deliveries. That was his 9th 4. He took the total to 87 before 3 more wickets fell without a run being scored. This time it was Tim Bresnan who started the sudden collapse, Robson unable to keep out a delivery which nipped back at the batsman, who had to be on his way with 53 runs to his name. Then in the next over, Stirling, who'd looked good in getting to 34, was also bowled, this time by Middlebrook, a man who probably can't believe what has happened to him this year. He had, after all, retired from the sport to work at a career as an umpire after being let go by Northamptonshire at the end of last season. He originally came out of retirement for just 1 game to replace Adil Rashid, but this was now his 5th appearance, and when he trapped Darby Milan in front 3 balls later, the batsman completing a pair, the 38-year-old spinner had his 14th championship wicket of the summer. So a 2-day finish was now back on the cards with Middlesex on 87 for 3 and still trailing by 106 runs. But for the next 16 overs, debutant Stevie Eskenazi and Nick Compton held firm in putting on 41 runs for the 4th wicket. Much needed runs as far as the home team were concerned. They, of course, are still hopeful of finishing the season as runners-up to their opponents here. Eskenazi had looked good in making his 22, but he then lost his off-stump to Stephen Patterson, who at last had his first wicket of this match. He has been a very solid performer all summer long for his county. That wicket brought in Neil Dexter for his last innings as a Middlesex player at Lord's. The home support will surely miss shots like this one. Alas for him, he was out for 13. Brooks with a good return catch as he grabbed his 56th wicket of the championship summer. Yorkshire, we should remember, still have 2 more matches to play, so the 68 the former Northants player bagged last summer could yet be overtaken. Middlesex headed to tea on 143 for 5, still trailing by 50, but the last session of the day showed why they have been Yorkshire's nearest challengers for much of this campaign. The pitch may have flattened out and the conditions overhead were absolutely ideal for batting in, but there was still a lot for James Franklin and Compton to do as they came back out to bat. And bat they did. Not often have the champions found two batsmen so difficult to dislodge as these two this year, both playing with authority. This shot for a couple not only took Compton to a 50 off 99 balls, but it also took him to 1,000 championship runs for the summer. He's done that without turning too many heads and with hardly getting a mention as a man to return to the England team, yet he has been the model of consistency throughout on his return to Lords from Taunton, this being the 8th time he got this far this year. Franklin led from the front in getting to a half-century of his own off 78 balls after taking 2 boundaries in 1 Patterson over to take the Kiwis' tally of 4s to 9. He ended the day on 60, with Compton getting to 86. These two taking their partnership to 131 in 33 overs before stumps were drawn. So the game is still on.
We've got the new ball first thing in the morning. That's going to be a pretty tricky period, but if Nick and I can get through that, you never know. If we could maybe scrap another 100, 150, it gives us a little sniff and maybe putting some pressure back on Yorkshire.
It's not going to be easy on a wicket like that. But we've got the new ball in the morning. Hopefully there's a bit of cloud cover. Mother Nature's not kind to us in the morning. And we've just got to take advantage of that. But we've just got to stick in tomorrow and stick to our process and hopefully it'll come off.
Middlesex will resume on the 3rd morning on 274 for 5, and that has them 81 runs ahead.